Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. We are still digging in right here. Romans chapter 8 in verse 5. For those who are according to the flesh and are controlled by its unholy desires, set their minds on and pursue those things which gratify the flesh. Unholy desires. When we are according to the flesh, we are controlled by its unholy desires. They set their minds on and pursue those things which gratify the flesh, which would be those unholy desires. And what I really want to dig into and try to pull apart some is that I think when we think of unholy things, we think of blatant worldly things. We think about sex and drugs and alcohol and corruption and lies and all of those types of things. And they are absolutely unholy desires. But you know what is also unholy desire? Fear. Being agitated, being intimidated, being unsettled, being disturbed. Those things are not in God. And whatever, God is holy. So only those things that are holy would be a part of God. And so these things are not part of God. And they should not be part of us either. And I was listening to a minister a couple of weeks ago, and I have listened to the message. I've listened to that sermon multiple times because it was so rich and eye-opening. And I'm sure, will get bits and pieces of that in our materials. But he talked about, and you know this, I want you to think about this as I'm sharing it with you, that fear, agitation, all of these things, being unsettled, agitated, disturbed, fear, craves facts to solidify or to validate fear. We look for things to validate our feelings, to validate our emotions, rather than staying with the word and truth and stopping ourselves, not permitting ourselves to go down that road. And jumping off the deep end is what I like to call it. And that actually is that he gave us a spirit of a sound mind, calm and well balanced. A calm mind is free from agitation, excitement, or disturbance, and it is not jumping off the deep end. And so that's what he has given us. And so yes, unholy desires are all of the big things that we always think about. But unholy desires are also fear, being agitated, intimidated, being troubled, an unholy desire, jealousy, an unholy desire, saying it's discernment, but being very judgmental. Those things are unholy desires. And that is according to the flesh. And those, it says, for those who are according to the flesh and are controlled by its unholy desires, set their minds on. Now this is the key. When we set our minds on and pursue those things which gratify the flesh, it brings death. And so when Jesus said, I've given you my peace, I've set you back in right standing with the Father, you have nothing to fear from God, and so you don't have anything to fear from God, you certainly don't have anything to fear from man. You can do what you've been called to do, you can fulfill your purpose. But when we choose to set our minds on these unholy desires, on these things that are not of God, it brings death. And I'll tell you this. Now the mind of the flesh, this is Romans 8:6. Now the mind of the flesh, which is sense and reason without the Holy Spirit, is death. Death that comprises the miseries arising from sin, both here and hereafter. Here and hereafter. And we are at our 5-minute mark, so we'll pick up here again tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.